Observations of experienced therapists leave little doubt that children in our society are at risk of being ritually abused.
And one group became an advocate of a new diagnosis called multiple personality disorder or dissociative disorders, and the other group became an advocate of a diagnosis called PTSD. That's purely an accident of history. We now know that the two phenomena are basically the same.
Been sexually abused by an occult practitioner, finding the key to unlock the child's horror-filled and totally confused subconscious mind.
When people have been traumatized as kids, they go through years of not remembering anything.
We often find that children have had monsters who have been programmed by cults in order to get a child to get an alter that will help them perpetrate, that will become cult identified.
Some of the crimes inflicted by these people are as serious or possibly even more atrocious than those that were done by the Nazis in World War II.
We find in children who have been so severely traumatized as children who have been ritually abused is dissociation.
One of the most common ways that children defend against the abuse is to dissociate.
Issue is that the body cannot lie. If you feel terrified or if you see a flashback in response to a particular phenomenon, then what you see at that particular moment, certainly the first time before you have had the chance to talk about it much, that is to be trusted.
To get at those memories, therapists use techniques like hypnosis.
And certified experienced hypnotists should be available.
In hypnosis, try to get her to relive the experience of her abuse.
You, as we mentioned, will be testifying for the prosecution in defense of memory repression. What evidence do you have that really supports that it exists?
Well, it really has been written about for well over 100 years that basically after terrible, terrible things happen to people, their memory system gets screwed up and disintegrates basically, so that pieces of memory fragments remain lodged in the mind and come back later when people are triggered by situations that remind them of the trauma, basically.
Is there any scientific evidence that would tell you exactly what triggers these memories?
We observe it oftentimes, like in Vietnam veterans on the 4th of July when they hear firecrackers going off, they have very vivid memories of things that happened in Vietnam. Car accident victims may be exposed to situations that remind them of the car crash, and memories can come flooding back, situations like that.
Dr. Loftus, you will be talking or defending the defense's point of view, and then basically you're going to be arguing that this is not reality. Explain to us why you don't think this works.
Well, first of all, I believe that there is no cogent scientific support that memories, a stream of traumas. What's being claimed in this case, Paula, is molestation spanning from the age of 5 to 23, buried in the unconscious until a year later when the person goes into therapy and somehow in the course of this very suggestive therapy comes out with this set of recollections. There just isn't any cogent scientific support for the idea that memory routinely works this way. So I don't believe that we should be prosecuting people and taking their freedom away on a flimsy, unsupported notion.
So, Dr. Loftus, if you believe what you're saying is true, are you saying these women are lying?
Oh, no. I don't believe for a minute that most of the people that come up with these kinds of memories under these kinds of conditions are deliberately lying. I believe that in many cases they have been led through suggestive techniques, through risky and dangerous techniques to come to believe that they've had experiences that they just haven't had.
Obviously, no one knows what decision is going to be made in the courtroom, but what might be the ramifications of a decision that repressed memory cannot be used in these cases?
Well, one thing that will be very interesting, Paula, is that psychologists have spent 70 years trying to provide cogent scientific support for the idea of massive or total repression, that you can really banish a stream of traumas into the unconscious and you can reliably recover them. If the court has ordered the prosecution to prove that this process exists and that it applies to the facts of this case, then it's going to be pretty amazing that they can prove something that hasn't been able to be proven for decades and decades.